Welcome back to the Ethan Clare Podcast Show. If you are joining us for the first time, this is a show about society, culture, the weird things all around us, and pretty much anything else we want to talk about. Before I introduce our guest of the night, I need to introduce my two side hosts, starting with the guy wearing the American Eagle shirt, Tylen Porth.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I was trying to come up with something to say. I just noticed the American Eagle shirt. Speaking of things, Oklahoma City, Jersey over there, Colin Clare, my brother.
Go Thunder.
Awesome. Go Thunder, I guess. And now, without further ado, man of the night, John Jabot.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming. And I got the last name right. I had to talk to John before the show because I thought it was Gibu for the longest time, but it's Jabot, like the jeans.
When you get further north towards St. Paul, they say Jibo sometimes.
Jibo?
So it just depends.
It's all where you're from.
Yeah.
Well, John, let's talk a little bit about your kind of your history and everything, because you're not from Windham.
I'm not.
You're from Ceylon.
Ceylon, Minnesota.
And you have an interesting story with that, because when I first talked to you, you came to me about showing Cottonwood this summer, and that's kind of how we met. And you told me that you were the youngest mayor in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. So there's got to be some kind of story behind that. Kind of talk to the viewers how that whole came to be.
Well, when I was 18, graduating from high school, I had some kind of ideas about what I wanted to have happen in the town that I lived. The school had closed, and they were going to tear it down, and I wanted to try and save that. Mm-hmm. Wasn't able to do it, and partly was because I wasn't in a position of power. I moved down to Estherville, Iowa to go to school. Was down there for a couple of years. Drove back intermittently to visit family, friends. Had a 1970 Cadillac I restored.
Really?
Yeah, new chrome, everything.
Wow.
It was beautiful. I'm driving, and I hit a pothole and bust the front end of my car. Just got it out of the shop. So I'm kind of angry. I'm in Ceylon and angry, so I go to my buddy's house, and I'm like, you know what? Who's ever running this town needs to fix the streets. They're terrible. And so
bring them to Wyndham.
Right. Yeah.
The roads are terrible here.
Yeah,
they're working on it.
Well, so anyway, that I think I was 20 then, and then I said, you know what? Next time I'm going to run for mayor, I'm going to fix the streets. And so I turned 21, and then I was 21 years old and 5 months when I ran for mayor. I was 21, and I was up against my cousin, who was 52 years old at the time.
Oh, really?
And so it got a little nasty. He got his mother, my great aunt, to write a letter to the editor and send letters to everyone in town to vote for him.
Oh, my gosh.
And so, Thanksgiving was terrible because I won and her son lost.
Yeah.
And she said she didn't write it, but it was in her handwriting. I gotten cards from her for Christmas. I knew it was her handwriting. Who are you fooling? I was elected at 21.
Wow.
And it was crazy. It was the same year Jesse Ventura was elected governor.
Oh, wow.
And so,
that was a whole different experience for you there. Wow.
Yeah, well, the running joke, and I laughed about it. They said, Jesse the body won and John the nobody, which was fine by me. I was so happy I couldn't believe it. I think I won by like 10 votes.
Oh, wow.
Which isn't huge.
My question is, did you get the roads fixed?
I did get the roads fixed.
Really?
They're great. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was mayor for 12 years. Got off the council and then went back on the council. Now I'm on the council as a city council person. Have been for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And how big is Ceylon? It's over by Fairmont, right?
Yep. Just south of Fairmont, about 20 miles. Roughly 400.
400? Okay. Wow. Well, to be the youngest mayor of Minnesota, that's pretty cool. Yeah. And what's the second guy after you? You even know? What's the closest?
Yeah, the next guy, I think he was mayor of Anoka, and I think he was just 22.
22, wow. So you barely held it.
Well, in fact, he wrote a letter to the editor. It was saying, or somebody had written something in the Pioneer Press in St. Paul and said, he's the youngest mayor or whatever. My dad grabs his pen and paper and writes a dirty letter to the Pioneer Press. I've subscribed for 40 years, and my son is the youngest mayor.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was interesting, too, because, it's my first birthday after I've turned 21, or first New Year's, excuse me. And so I think, what am I going to do that night? I'm mayor. It's my first day as mayor, January 1st, 1999. So I'm like, let's go get liquored up. I didn't. Not that I'm advocating that, but you're 20. You turn 21.
Yeah, you turn 21. You want to
this
drink.
This is my first New Year's, right?
Yeah.
I decide for whatever reason I'm not going to do it, and so I end up going home. I just sit there on the couch, fall asleep. I wake up at 3 a.m, and in Ceylon, when there's a fire, it's such a small community. To alert the firefighters, pre-pager, they would set off a siren.
Oh.
That you can hear all over town.
Huh.
And so I'm laying on the couch, and I hear this siren about 3 a.m. I go to walk out the door. I go to look towards the fire hall, which is to the east, and I see this orange haze above the tree line about 2 blocks down. And this house is on fire.
Oh, geez.
And so I get in my car because I figure, well, I'm mayor now. I have to go help.
Yeah.
I'm on the fire department now.
Oh, okay.
And have been for like 9 years, but back then I wasn't. I get in my car and drive down there, and the house is fully engulfed.
Jeez.
This is New Year's Day.
First day mayor.
First day as
Wow.
mayor, January 1st, 1999. That day we lost 6 people.
Really?
In the house fire. My first day
Wow.
as mayor. So what I thought was going to be this really great day was
Terrible.
us, moving body bags with 3 kids in them. I mean, it was
Unbelievable.
one of the worst days of my life, and I
Yeah.
thought it'd be one of the best.
Wow.
And my buddy, I was inconsolable. I mean, I thought, geez, what have I done? What have I brought upon Ceylon? And
That's crazy.
my buddy pulls me aside. He goes, honestly, at this rate, and everybody needs a friend like this, but he says, at this rate, within 2 weeks, we're all going to be dead.
6 people die first
Right,
day. It's a
right.
town of 400. Who knows what happens?
And he's not a math guy. He nailed the math perfectly. I did it in my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. And I laughed when I needed to laugh, but it was truly what should have been a great day was a terrible day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed being mayor. I was mayor for 12 years. And,
Wow.
and I have a little bit of a political history there, but in Ceylon, that's actually the birthplace of Walter Mondale, the vice president under
Yeah.
Jimmy Carter.
Okay.
Wow.
And the
didn't know
house,
that.
yeah, yep. He just turned 90 this year, January 5th.
Oh, wow.
And the house I live in is the Methodist Church parsonage. And his dad was a Methodist minister. He was born in that house.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of history in
Yeah.
Ceylon.
Yep. I've met him 2-3 times. We talk about the house and
Wow.
living in Ceylon and his
Yeah.
dad. And,
Huh. That's crazy.
So, yeah.
Well, and you also told me that you work for the Vikings.
I
you
do.
I don't remember what the position was.
Yeah. It's part-time Vikings, part-time a company called SMG.
Okay.
SMG is the company that manages the stadium for the state of Minnesota. The state of Minnesota, U.S. Bank Stadium is owned by the state of Minnesota.
Okay.
And so they hire a company because the state doesn't know anything about running stadiums.
Yeah.
They hire a company to hire everyone. They don't know a lot about most things.
Yeah.
Tabs, taxes, sales tax. I mean,
Yeah.
let's get going there. We can talk for hours.
Roads?
But
Oh, jeez.
yeah, roads.
Oh,
I
my
mean,
gosh.
6 people holding a shovel on the side of the road, one guy doing work, that kind of thing.
So
Ridiculous.
true.
Yeah, that's what they do in their training videos.
Really?
Yeah, we use them for our fire department.
Oh,
Just stand
my
around,
God.
hold a shovel, one guy works, and the rest laugh. So, anyway, so the company I work for is SMG. I supervise about 20 employees during like concerts and what they call major events that are non-Viking games. On Viking days, I help people download the Vikings app, troubleshoot the Wi-Fi, help people with the ticketing kiosks, basically help them get in the stadium and use the technology.
Huh.
And
Okay.
so, yep, and that's how I ended up. Last year, I worked all the games, the playoff game, the Saints-Vikings playoff game. I was in that end zone
the
with
Super Bowl,
Stephon
right?
Diggs. Yeah, and when Stephon Diggs scored the touchdown, and then, of course, I got to work the Super Bowl.
No way.
And then the week right before the Super Bowl, I was head of security escorts for NFL Network.
Oh, wow.
Over at Mall of America.
Did you
So
meet any famous people?
I did. I got to take Deion Sanders shopping for a couple hours. And,
No way.
That's awesome.
Roger Staubach, Terry Bradshaw, Emmitt Smith.
Oh, my gosh.
Kirk Cousins.
Wow.
I talked to him and his brother. I said to his brother, this was right after Alex Smith was traded to the Redskins. And I said to his brother, NFC Championship game, best defense in the NFL. If he's looking, we might have a place for him. And
Yeah.
he looks at me and says, trust me, my brother isn't lost on that. And then, 2 months later,
Yeah.
he's a Viking.
Wow.
So a month and a half.
So it was a good experience for you
Oh,
to
it was great.
hang
The
out with all
Vikings-
those celebrities and everything.
Yep, the Vikings are great, and they're a great team to work for, and they
Yeah,
take care
wow.
of people, and they're really great with their guests. And even though they don't own the stadium, they kicked in $800 million
Wow.
to build that stadium.
Wow.
And the only time they get paid is during Vikings games,
Wow.
and they pay $14,000 a month to rent it.
Really?
all year round, 12 months they pay $14,000.
Wow.
And they only get revenue of those 10 or 11 or 12 games that they have there.
That's
They're making
crazy.
a lot during those games, though.
Well, $14 for a beer. I mean, you do that times 60,000 or whatever. They do make money. I'm not saying it isn't a money-making business, but they've
That's
done
nuts.
very well, and they're so good with the community. They're very helpful there too. So.
And one more question about that: How do you end up getting that job? Did you just through connections, or how did you get a hold of that?
I love Instagram. And which I know I'm bringing down the medium age of Instagram by saying I'm even on it. But after Facebook got destroyed by old people like me, then I moved on to Instagram because I'm like the towering gorilla trying to destroy social media for young people. But I was on Instagram and I saw U.S. Bank Stadium. I followed it during the construction and I saw that they were hiring and I They said here to apply, and so I applied and had an interview, and they hired me. And
Wow.
I actually started out as just a guest services person, and then they hired me. What my position is Purple People, which basically I wear a uniform, walk around, really goofy. I look like a purple Where's Waldo, really. It's a purple, and horizontal stripes are terrible for a fat guy. It just makes you look like the Michelin Man. So it is a terrible outfit. But actually I've had people come up and say, hey, can I have that shirt?
Really?
Mostly women.
Oh.
And so I always offer, because it's fair to give them a deal. I say, if you give me your shirt, I'll give you mine. That's a fair thing.
Businessman.
Yeah, right. I'm just trying to make a buck and be fair. I don't want them to walk around with no shirt. That isn't fair. But yeah, that's...
So it's their Instagram.
Yeah. So I applied and I got hired, and so I got as a Purple People, and then last year I was hired as a supervisor. So I supervised that group of our Purple People, the ones that handle the app downloads. And then also I supervised people. Like during the Super Bowl, I was in a club. And that's how I ended up escorting Blake Shelton, Gwen Stefani, Darius Rucker.
Oh, my gosh.
Pink. I got a picture with Pink. I might have showed you that.
I don't think I saw that one.
Yeah, I got a picture with Pink.
Wow.
She was pretty cool. Justin Timberlake.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Well, it's awesome to have you here. And the topic of tonight is an interesting one, because when I was talking to John about what we're going to talk about, he brought up a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, let's just do Illuminati, New World Order, whatever we can kind of come up with, and we'll see where we go from there. So that's what we're rolling with. So Illuminati, New World Order. Before we even say anything, what are your thoughts on this, John? What do you think is the whole thing behind this?
Well, this is a very difficult subject because it's a subject that you either believe or you don't, I think. It's really black and white. And I think that when you say certain things, it offends people. I think ultimately people, because I think people want to believe that their government will take care of them. Yeah. And I feel like as a whole, the U.S. government has tried to do that. The problem is that when you have government, you have people, and sometimes you have corrupt people. Oh, yeah. And, when I was doing research for the show and even beyond that, one of the things that I've always kind of been interested in is religion and theology. And when they talk about, like, Jesus Christ, for instance, there's evidence of all the things that happened with Jesus Christ almost to a T. Things like being born to a virgin. Being referred to as the Son, things like a resurrection, things like 12 disciples. Most of those things are written in Egyptian mythology. Oh, okay. And which occurred long before Jesus Christ was around. Really? And it's not just Jesus. There were other deities that they basically were all under those standards. Not to get too winded with it, but basically when they talked about, Jesus and then Egyptian theology, one of the things they go back to is the East Star, how the three wise men followed the Eastern Star. Yeah. Well, the Eastern Star is Sirius, the star, the brightest star in the sky. It's brightest on the 24th of December. It's also brightest. It aligns with the three stars in Orion's belt, what they call the three kings. Yeah. A lot of it is tied to the astrological calendar. Yeah. The zodiac, they call it. Interesting. And so when they talk about all those different things, that's why sometimes people get a little skeptical of where it all starts. Yeah. And I'm not saying there isn't a Jesus, because I'm a believer in Jesus. But what I'm saying is that there's so many coincidences with Egyptian theology and Egyptian beliefs that it isn't just you just take it for granted. And I think that's what scares people. You start talking about these things, people are like, well, you don't believe in God? No, I'm not saying that at all. I think what I am trying to say is, like I said, when you have people mixed into this group, you're going to come up with people who are corrupt. And I think in American society, what you're seeing now with the latest evidence is the Bushes. And I'm not saying anything bad about Barbara Bush, but that whole line of that family is tied into some of the most corrupt stuff that's ever occurred.
Ooh, we're getting a phone call right here. We'll go on, but sure. let's see who's on the line here. Hello, who do we have on the line?
Hey, this is Kara Haugen, one of your executive producers.
No way, Kara, how's it going?
Way good. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good. You are on the Ethan Clare Show. We have John here, which I know is your fellow coworker, and I'm hoping that you have something good to say about him.
Well, I have a lot of good things to say about John. I just wanted to welcome him to the show. I don't know anything about what you guys are talking about. This Illuminati, I don't even know how to say that word.
Yeah, you're
John,
right.
you didn't tell me about that.
Well, there's, Kara, I try to keep it simple for you,
Keep it simple, stupid. Don't give me that title. So, yeah, we love your podcast. John's excited to do it. And let me tell you, you won't get out of here early with John.
All right, well, we'll keep that in mind. Thank you for calling in, though.
Yeah, you guys have a great night. I can't wait to hear the rest of it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for calling in. Have a good one. Well, she didn't really have anything to say about the Illuminati, but
some good words for John.
Good words for John.
And
yeah.
us, of course.
I'll take that wherever I can get it.
But John, like you were saying before, you were talking about kind of relating like Christianity to the whole Illuminati thing. You want to kind of finish that point or whatever you were kind of going with that?
Yeah, just real quickly. I mean, basically that ties into where when they start talking about the Ten Commandments. Those 10 Commandments were basically what they think a derivative of the Book of the Dead in the Egyptians, almost word for word, the 10 Commandments. And why would you want a 10 Commandments? Well, you have to remember, too, long before there were police and official militaries keeping control of people, they needed something to control people, to make them moral, to make them have good decisions, to be afraid of things.
Yeah, interesting.
And so that translates to what we're doing now. I mean, how many people are afraid of government or look at government a certain way, like we can't touch them? You know? There's certain elements that are kind of untouchable. And I think that's where some of that, to kind of round about the point, that's where I'm going with it. Is that is the basis for what we believe all the way back then.
Yeah, and well, I think kind of to go off of that, the whole, what I kind of believe, and I think we talked about a little bit before, was that there definitely are people that are so high up that are making super important decisions, and there's all these things that people say about the Illuminati, and they kind of just have a bad like connotation with it or whatever.
Right.
But it is that way, because there's people who are so high up, and they're high up in banking or high up in war, high up in all kinds of stuff, and they're definitely making decisions that affect everybody. And I think that's kind of what I think of as the Illuminati. But as soon as other people hear Illuminati, they think selling your soul to the devil and, you know, blood oaths and all kinds of crazy stuff. But I think it's just high up government who's making decisions that really affect the entire world. People from all different countries coming together. That's what I think about it.
No, and I think it starts with what they call the central bank, and we'll probably reference some of that in the videos. The central bank anywhere. Our central bank is the Federal Reserve. When you get your dollar bill out, it says the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
The Federal Reserve is not part of the U.S. government. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It is not.
Really?
The Federal Reserve is it was passed as legislation back in the early 1900s, and what it did is it was crafted by J.P. Morgan, the Rothschilds, etc.
Yeah.
The Illuminati. That legislation was crafted in private, in an island out in North Carolina, and they basically crafted that legislation. They gave it to a senator. He presented it. They endorsed Woodrow Wilson as president because they said he would endorse it as well.
Wow.
Created the Federal Reserve Bank. And so just kind of real quickly how the Federal Reserve Bank works is the United States does not issue dollars. They don't issue it.
Really?
The Federal Reserve issues dollars.
Oh, okay.
To the U.S. government.
Really?
They're actually loaning them money.
Loaning the government
the Reserve
money.
is. And so when you loan somebody money, what do you collect?
That.
Interest on that debt. You have debt plus the interest.
Yeah.
So for every dollar the U.S. government gets, they're paying interest on that to the Federal Reserve.
Oh, I see you're going with that.
So that's so we just keep going down like
that.
that.
You hear the national debt?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Huh.
And so people say, well, then why was the national income tax created?
Yeah.
Well, the federal bank, the Federal Reserve, was concerned that we wouldn't be able to keep with the interest on that debt.
Okay.
So what are we paying now, basically? As of the 1980s, you know what we were paying on the debt?
What are we paying?
We were paying the interest. Only interest.
That's how much it is,
That's how much it is. We're paying only interest. Where does the interest
Really?
come from? Income tax.
That's crazy.
Everything else is coming from the Federal Reserve. That's why people believe the Federal Reserve is corrupt.
Well, I mean, after hearing stuff like this, you kind of wonder what's going on.
Well, and John Kennedy challenged, because what he wanted to do, he was one of the presidents that actually made an executive order that was going to allow the U.S. government to print its own money. 6 months later, he's killed in Dallas.
Yeah, the assassination.
That's it.
That's nuts.
And so we don't really know how that happened, but it's interesting. Anytime somebody's tried to intercede in the Federal Reserve, off they go.
Wow. It's
how?
nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, and that just keeps backing up the whole conspiracy around this. And then it actually does make you wonder what's really going on. Is there corruption? Are people who are standing up for this getting killed? But you brought up like the Rothschilds and a bunch of big families. And I know at the top of the pyramid, Dalton, you want to bring up the 13, I think it's a Crown Council of 13 is what it's called, the 13 richest families in the world. Just look that up, Dalton, because I'm interested. The last names, I think we have the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers are on there, I'm pretty sure.
Kennedys.
I think the Bushes might be on there.
Onassis.
Yeah.
Onassis was, just a little background on Onassis. Now, Jackie Kennedy married in Onassis, he was a Greek tycoon.
Oh, okay.
And so that's the Onassis in Greece were very wealthy.
Here it is right here. These are the 13 families in the world that apparently control everything from politics to terrorism. So all kinds of stuff. There's the pyramid. I don't know if they have the families on here. Let's see. What is this? The Astor bloodline, the Bundy bloodline,
Yep,
Collins, DuPont. Okay, DuPont, obviously. Yeah. Freeman, Kennedy, there you go. Lai, Onassis, Rockefeller, Russell, Van Doyne, Merovingian, and Rothschild.
Yeah.
Those are the 13. So, wow, that's crazy. And those 13 families, there's also evidence that backs this too. You just look at Rothschilds or Rockefeller and you can see how much stuff they actually own, billions and trillions of dollars worth of stuff. It's just crazy.
Well, and you look at the wars that we've been in, one of the things you guys will find the longer you live is that wars are good for business. Oh, yeah. They're good for banks. Because banks, especially even during World War I and World War II, were working it from both sides. Mm-hmm. In World War II, I'll speak specifically about that, you had a number of banks that were working with the Nazis.
Really?
One of those banks, the National Union Bank in New York, was headed up by a man by the name of Prescott Bush.
Related to George Bush?
Oh, absolutely. That would be George H.W. Bush's father.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's George Bush's grandfather.
Yeah.
He was actually got in trouble. Their bank got in trouble for basically aiding money laundering to the Nazis. They helped build the German Nazi party during the 1930s.
Oh, my gosh.
He ended up being a U.S. senator, a U.S. representative later on.
Wow.
And a lot of it's covered up. But you go down that line, you got, Prescott Bush, you got... And then his dad even was involved. There was Herbert Walker Bush. That was George Bush's one of Prescott's brothers.
Wow.
And then you got George H.W. Bush, the elder Bush now, and then George Bush Jr.
So there's the corruption or whatever just kind of goes down the family tree if they started off that rich, and then it kind of trickles down throughout the whole thing. But bring the pyramid back up, Dahl, because that's super interesting to me. Every time you look up Illuminati or whatever, it brings up this pyramid. It starts off with the Crown Council of 13, and then underneath it has like world religion, world banks. If we could pull that back up, that would be. If we just pull that pyramid, let's see here. What is all underneath there? Because there's some really interesting stuff in here. Bush wasn't on there though, on the 13 families. I don't see it on there.
No, and the Bush's ties, they are vast now. They actually, the Prescotts and then the Pierces are also part of that. That's Barbara Bush's family. One thing to keep in mind with the older George Bush, George H.W. Bush, he was the head of the CIA as well.
Oh, really?
So they've been power brokers for years and years, decades.
Wow.
Right.
Well, here it is right here. The world, I don't know what world monarch is, just the top people, but the Crown Council of 13, the world's richest families are underneath, and then the Committee of 300, which is the world's richest, most powerful, 300 more families underneath. Right. And then you have the think tanks, and kind of zoom in a little bit more, dealt with that so I can read that. I can't even read that far one over there. Geez, I don't even know what that says. But there's other, and then it's under there, central banks, tax revenue, interest revenue, what you're talking about. Yep. There's the bank right there, Bank of International Settlements, World Bank, and the far one, I don't know what that is. Then the gas companies, gas and oil companies underneath, corporations, and then religion and military police, and then population is at the way bottom.
If I could interrupt real quickly, too. Yeah. A lot of those companies, if you look like General Electric, Pfizer, a lot of those are not just in the, say, electrics business or the medicine business, they're in the war business. General Electric makes motors for many types of motors of industry, things like airplanes. A lot of the Boeings have General Electric engines, diesel engines.
Wow.
And so they use religion to control the people, to make them feel like they have to behave. Mm-hmm. Then they tax you to take the money that you want to pay, and they're loaning you the money. And so they are truly in control, whether you believe it or not. And I actually believe with the distractions that we have in society, they've distracted us to the point where we don't even pay attention to this stuff.
No.
It's going on. Hey, we're doing podcasts. Yeah. Or we're on Facebook or Twitter. You sit with anybody, they got their phone in front of them. Yep. Everybody's oblivious to what's going on because they want you to enjoy the little bit of life that you have, and they suck most of the money away.
Oh, wow. Well, it's crazy because it says world population control, and then religion, and then governments, the intelligence community, and then look at this. Far right side, media, Disney, Viacom, and that's General Electric right there, isn't it?
Yep.
The logo, and then schools is right underneath. And I've heard of, I did a paper in high school on what is it called? Subliminal messages in media, how they can control people by just putting little things in like Disney shows. It starts when you're a kid and all the way up as you keep watching TV. You don't realize it, but they're messing with your brain big time. These big corporations who are only in it for the money. You look at Disney or Viacom. Disney owns ESPN. Disney owns all kinds of companies underneath it. Viacom owns all kinds of companies underneath it. Yeah. And then you look at, I don't even know, General Electric was a media company.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What do they own that?
Well, General Electric's part of that NBC group.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Universal.
Wow.
I think Sony's in that group now.
Unbelievable.
There's a lot of it. You know, I think when we break down those companies, I think people would be surprised to see them in there. But they're in control of so many things. The things we see. You guys probably don't remember as much. I don't know how old you were on September 11th, 2001.
Oh, geez. I was probably 4.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
Talent wasn't born.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. But the point in that was September 11th, you know, people are asking the question, how does that happen? How does this get so far widespread that nobody saw this coming? And you start asking, what are these corporations? Are there corporations that stand to benefit from a terrorist attack?
From the war that followed.
Well, preliminarily beginning with that terrorist attack.
Yeah.
Because here's what you want to do. You guys probably don't remember that little pyramid, and I have it on my phone, but that pyramid where they showed the threat level. And during the Bush administration, yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah,
they have that pyramid where they show the threat level. It says high, elevated, you know.
What should he look up here?
Just type in maybe Homeland Security threat
Pyramid.
Triangle or pyramid.
But you were saying that it has different levels, high, medium.
Right. And each day the news outlets would say we're at threat level orange today. Or we're at threat level whatever.
Is it one of these right here? Maybe that far left one over there?
He didn't put threat level in there.
Oh, he didn't put threat. Yeah, he didn't put threat pyramid or something.
Yeah, so it's something the Homeland Security came out with. Now, when I was a kid, you had CNN, but you didn't have Fox News. You didn't have MSNBC.
There it is right there, I think. Severe, high,
there
elevated.
you go, right there.
Yep.
And so what happens is right after 9/11, you're on an airplane or you're wherever, and they're showing you what the risk is. And the way it worked is it never went below elevated.
Really?
And so everybody's in a constant state of agitation. We're always worried something might happen.
Wow.
Well, what is your opportunity, or what? Not opportunity, but when you think about you see that threat level, are you going to do anything that would break the status quo? Would you do anything to go outside the norm? No, because you're afraid of all the things that are going to happen. When you fly in an airplane, you're thinking about that. And the news companies, they use the news companies to get this out there, to terrorize people, to scare them.
Wow.
You know, you're least likely to die in an airplane than just about any other mode of transportation.
Yeah.
But all you hear about are 19 terrorists that, you know, killed people on airplanes.
Really?
And there is some evidence that those 19 terrorists, some of them weren't even on those planes.
Really? Wow.
They believe 6 or 7 of them are still living and were
I
basically
have heard
framed.
That. I have heard that, yeah.
And that's a very controversial thing. You say that stuff, and the people who were around 9/11, they kind of fired up about that.
Oh, yeah.
I lived during that time. I think to have a healthy distrust of your government is what our forefathers have done for years and years. Mm-hmm. And I think once we stop doing that, I think it's when these things become a lot more real.
Yeah. Well, dang, this is kind of confusing to me, though. They were showing people this before 9/11.
No, they were showing this after 9/11.
Oh, okay.
This is what they used, the Homeland Security used to let people know how scared they were, basically.
Really?
And so people would see that and go, geez, why is it high today? Because they wouldn't give specifics. We've had reports, and this is why we've raised it. And so it never got below yellow. And Bush, the younger Bush, was really criticized for this because it just really scared the heck out of people.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because you never really knew. Yeah.
Because it says elevated, significant risk of terrorist attacks.
Correct.
More happening, or what? I mean, what are people thinking of that?
Well, and take yourself back to 2001. For us who were alive, not taking a shot at you, but for those of us who are old enough to have been around, that day, we really didn't know. I remember driving to work that day, and you hear about a plane crash into the World Trade Center.
Oh, yeah.
The one tower. And I'm listening to the radio, and they said, well, we think a small plane has crashed in the World Trade Center, which I do remember in 1993, they had the first bombing of the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
And so we always kind of thought maybe it was a target, but weren't for sure.
Yep.
And then continue to drive. I get to work, and then a second plane has hit the tower. And now we're thinking, basically, what the hell is going on here?
Oh, yeah.
Like, are we under attack? What
Wasn't
is
an
happening?
accident, for sure.
Right. I mean, people were saying, listen, we just don't believe that this is something that just happened by coincidence. And then you start hearing that there's other planes that are out there.
Yeah. Pentagon.
Right.
The field.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So it's terrifying just to kind of get you in that mindset.
Yeah.
Then you start seeing this right after you fly, or right after the thing happens, you go on a flight. I went on a flight a month after 9/11.
Really?
I booked my plane tickets 2 days before, 3 days before 9/11.
Wow.
And so I'm on went on an airplane, and people have AK-47s. and I'm going to get on the airplane, and they're swabbing all your bags down for explosives.
Oh my gosh.
And so I see a guy take my bag, a little leather bag, and he rubs it with his swab. And he says, "That guy there." And he grabs me.
Oh my
This
gosh.
guy grabs me, huge guy, puts me up against the wall. Grabs me, handcuffs me. My wife is
What?
crying. Yes, handcuffs me.
Oh my gosh.
Takes me into a back room. She says, "You need to stay there." She's crying.
Yeah.
I'm flipping out. I'm crying because I'm like, I'm going to get killed. I mean, there's these huge guys. They take me back, and they're, "You need to sit there." And they sit me in, and I'm handcuffed, sitting in this room.
Wow.
And I'm just, and at this point, I don't know what's going on. No, remember, I'm the mayor of a town.
Yeah.
I have, at this point, I have 2 kids.
Wow.
Nothing's, I didn't figure anything's going on. And so the guy comes in after about 30 minutes, and I'm sore. I mean, I'm handcuffed behind my back, and
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there, and he says, "You know why you're here?" And I said, "I honestly don't know why I'm here." And he says, "Yeah, you do. You know why. Tell me about your bag." And I go, "I don't know what you're talking about." And he goes, "You're going to tell me before you leave. You're not even getting out of here." So I said, "All right, well," I said, "I have nothing to say." "Is that how you're going to play it?" I said, "Honestly, sir," and I'm crying. I mean, I am crying because I'm,
Yeah, you have no
I'm
idea
a
what's
baby,
going on.
basically. I'm 25 years old. I don't know what the heck's going on. And after 9/11, you think, what did I do?
Yeah.
What happened was I had a bag that I went to South Dakota to get fireworks with.
Oh.
And that's a bag I decided stupidly to take on the airplane a month after 9/11.
Wow.
Of course, it tested positive for explosives.
Wow.
And of course, I'm getting handcuffed.
That's crazy.
And so the guy apologized profusely, but he said, there's guys in airports holding on to AK-47s.
Yeah.
I mean, the
I
Homeland
believe
Security
it.
is
Right after
everywhere.
9/11, yeah.
FBI,
That's nuts.
Marshals, yeah.
Wow.
So sorry it gets so long-winded, but that's kind of to take you back there. This is why people get scared, and this is
Yeah.
what the media does to kind of keep people down.
Wow. Well, we're going to
nuts.
take a short break here. We will be right back, and we'll continue our conversation about the Illuminati and New World Order.
Windshield repair, Extra Touch Auto. Paintless dent removal, Extra Touch Auto. You got yourself a broken car or just an old junker? Come on down to Extra Touch Auto Sales in Wyndham, Minnesota. Get yourself a new one.
Welcome back to the Ethan Clare Podcast Show. We are here with John Jabot talking about Illuminati, New World Order, and we just got done having a big discussion kind of about 9/11 and about how the government uses kind of fear tactics to scare the regular citizens of the United States. And John was telling us about his experience a month after 9/11 getting handcuffed, which is scary.
Yeah.
And that's just nuts. But because he had fireworks from South Dakota, some
The
residue,
residue, yeah.
in your bag. Well, that's nuts.
Yeah.
To kind of move on a little bit, I have done a ton of research on this, and I kept coming to this thing called Bohemian Grove. Dalt, can you bring up the information on this? Now, you said you didn't know about this,
No.
John. This is very interesting. I'd like to call it the summer camp for the members of the Illuminati, otherwise just the elite. Go back to that one article that you were just at, Dalt. Bohemian Grove, where the rich and powerful go to misbehave. This picture right here, very famous. You have U.S. President Ronald Reagan. There's Nixon, Harvey Hancock. Pretty much, it's a summer camp, but it's for all these rich men, these very powerful men. They go there every year. It's in Monte Rio, California, out in the middle of nowhere. One interview, the guy said it's out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of nowhere. It's so far out from anything that it's very secluded. There's security around the camp. And every summer, all these very rich, powerful men come together. And the things that happen in this camp are super weird. Like cult-like, very strange, like guys getting in cloaks and dressing up as females and some of the things.
What?
Yeah. And it's crazy, but Alex Jones got in here. And I'm not a huge fan, but he got in here with a camera back in like the 90s or something. You want to pull up the video, Dot? We'll just check it out right away to get this talk going. But just super weird.
Did he ever get in trouble for that?
No, he blended right in, apparently. Just
Really?
a big white guy, yeah.
As a white guy, you used to be able to slide in anywhere. Oh, there's just another fat white guy. Who
There he
cares?
is right there. So this was a while ago,
And
back
for
when his
many
voice
years
was
I've been
normal, I think.
exposing the criminal
Just a crazy-
activities of the global elite, also known as the New World Order. In past films, we've documented the centralization of power.
You skipped like 4 minutes in, Dalt. We don't need to listen to his whole thing here. If you go farther in, keep going. Here it is right here.
Alex Jones, and I snuck in
Just
there in
leave it, leave it.
2000. I'm the guy that blew it wide open and got the video. It's been on national TV.
Well, I disrespect you for that.
You do?
I do.
But there's a lot of big public officials going in there. Don't we deserve to know?
You took an. I don't know anything about you, and I don't know anything about your film. But if you go in there with an understanding, you violated that understanding by releasing that film, and I don't respect you for that.
Really? But we have public officials.
I'm sorry. You took an understanding when you went in there that you would not do that film, and did you have an understanding when you went in there?
No.
Did you crash it?
Yes.
Yeah, and it has no trespassing signs there too, doesn't it?
No, they put them up after.
Oh, I'm
I just
sorry.
walked in.
I'm sorry, sir. I've been there before. I know what the circumstances are, and I'm sorry you violated the understandings. That was not a gentlemanly thing to do.
But what about the ritual? Is the ritual genuine?
He's talking about the cremation of. I can't think of the name. Here it is right here. So they burn this big effigy, all these rich and powerful men. I don't know why it keeps coming back to them.
I don't owe you this comment.
I know. I appreciate it.
This is what's called ambush journalism, and I disrespect you for that as well. So thank you
ever
and goodbye.
been in the ritual?
It's none of your damn business.
Oh.
Just hold on a second. Here it is right here, I think. Go back a little bit, Del. Go back.
Looks like some old 1980s horror movie or something.
Yeah, keep going back before the interview. He cuts in between it, but keep going right. Keep going. No, forward. Keep going right. Keep going. Right here. Play this. Right before the interview.
I don't think that's something I need to talk to you about.
Great owl of Bohemia, we thank thee for thy adjuration.
So that's inside the grove?
Listen to this. Cut. All right. Stop that. So they're like, they're praising a giant owl. I can't remember the name of the owl. But they light this big effigy on fire, and all these rich and powerful men are dressed up in like cloaks and stuff, and they're humming and singing and dancing. It makes you wonder what are they doing in there, out in the middle of the woods.
You know, it's people like that give white guys like me a bad time, because that. I just don't understand why they would do stuff like that, especially in today's world where you got to think somebody's going to figure that out.
Yeah.
You know, the problem today is that people talk about stuff. People have this stuff in their minds and that things are going on, and I just don't get it. I mean, to me, when I first saw that, I thought Treasure Island, Las Vegas, like their big explosions with the boats crashing.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I didn't think some weird ritual, but I guess, you know, it is what it is. And clearly that guy had something he didn't want to talk about.
Oh, yeah. I don't know who that was, but he interviewed him. Alex Jones was obviously ambushing him or whatever, trying to get information. He was super pissed off. But there's actually the map, don't click the other one where we have. Yeah, here's a map of the whole thing. So pretty much it's a giant campground, and they set up tents, and some of the richer parts of it have like actual cabins, but go to the top part, Dalt. So right there in the middle is where they do their big ceremony, right there. And then all those little things that come up, they're all campgrounds. And a lot of U.S. presidents, a lot of famous writers, politicians, actors, billionaires, businessmen, they all belong to different things. And I was reading one thing, like the Hillbillies have had George H.W. Bush, like Herbert Hoover, just a bunch of big names, and they belong to these certain tribes, and they go like skinny dipping in the lake.
Do they still do this today?
Yeah. Every year they go out here, and
so Trump's going.
I don't know.
That's what I'm wondering.
I don't know who.
Might have to ask him.
This is their interesting thing. Their motto is where is it? Weaving spiders come not here, and that pretty much means don't be coming here to do business. But that's about the complete opposite that happens here, because the Manhattan Project was planned here. And that's where they developed the 2 nuclear bombs that they dropped in World War II. Right. And there was many other big decisions that were made here. So obviously they're coming here to do this, but the motto is weaving spiders come not here. They're pretty much, it's a hypocritical thing, because all these world leaders are obviously coming together from not just the United States, but everywhere, are coming together to make important decisions. And I don't know. It was really interesting to me. And they have the map, and
I would like to take a look at it on Google Earth.
I mean,
if you can.
Yeah, this is what you're gonna see. He took the.
Well, that's like cartoon.
Yeah, it's a cartoon version, but he pretty much just made a big map of the whole campground. You're not gonna see anything weird on Google Maps. There's
it's
pictures.
Just interesting to look at.
Pull up the pictures, though. I have it in a file. There's some really creepy pictures, and it just looks like a big party. President Herbert Hoover said it's the greatest men's party on earth. So, I mean, that's how he describes it. There's the one picture. Here's all the old picture of all the guys eating. There's the cremation of Carr. I can't remember the name of it. It's something. The big ceremony. There's another creepy picture. And you see they're wearing some creepy pointed, I don't even know. That kind of looks like what the Pope wears. That pointed hats
Also
right there.
Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
KKK.
Yeah.
One thing you're not seeing there is a ton of diversity.
No.
And so but this is where a lot of that stuff came from.
Really?
It's the old white guy, the power groups.
Yep.
They get together, they do this in secret.
Wow.
You know why all of us are jerking around whatever we do on a weekend. They're there deciding what war we're going to fight next.
How many black people are you going to find in that?
No. And you notice, too, even if there were influential black people from around the world, when this picture was taken, all the places that had black people who could have been influential weren't invited and then didn't exist.
Yep.
You know, even South Africa was controlled by white people up into the 1990s.
Look at this. It's just unbelievable how many, holy cow, how many people are there. And those are all probably billionaires and millionaires. That's unbelievable. Or really influential people.
That could be either a Donald Trump rally or a Coldplay concert. That's the diversity you see in that. I mean, well, seriously, I mean, that's the thing. It irritates me the most is those people know exactly what they're doing, and they're making decisions for people that have no idea.
Oh, yeah,
And this is why I fear government, is things like this. When I see
crazy
stuff, it makes me so angry.
Yeah, that's nuts. And I this whole thing was just crazy to me, the whole Bohemian Grove thing. But it still goes on today. They still do it every summer. And their motto, remember that, weaving spiders come not here. So a bunch of hypocrites.
I wonder if there's any updated pictures or anything.
No. If anything has changed, the security has gotten way tighter, especially after Alex Jones got in. And I think it was 99 he got in. They've really upped the security. You're not going in there anymore. I was reading an article, it was Spy Magazine, a really old article about journalists that got in. And I don't think he brought a camera in, but he documented everything. And he said the skinny dipping in the lake, all these guys were going together. It was super weird. Dressing up.
So it's guys only?
It is guys only. There's very few females. It's only guys, and they're all very well known. I don't know why they're going skinny dipping in the lake out in the redwoods, but
sounds like someone else that I know.
Creepy stuff, dude. It's creepy stuff. There's the lake. There they are. There's probably some kind of skinny dipping thing going on. Zoom in on that lake, Dalt.
Why does it say Cottonwood? Cottonwood Lake.
What does that say? No. That thing right there, no cameras allowed. Or what is it? No cameras by the beach or something right here. I can't read it. I think it says no cameras by the beach. They don't want any nudity out there.
Well, nobody wants to see Richard Nixon in a Speedo. I mean, let's be honest. Lyndon Johnson.
Not even in the Speedo.
Who wants to? I don't even want to see Lady Bird Johnson in a bathing suit. That's terrible. No disrespect to the First Lady, but there's a reason they call her Lady Bird. I think that's what their dog's name was, too.
Well, and this is another thing I wrote down. There is no arguing that the Illuminati was a real group. Back in the 1700s, a guy named Adam Weishaupt was the guy who started it. And it's well documented that he started this group. He said, we need to get past the fundamentalist, the religious people. We need to get past this old style of thinking. And he wanted the new world order. He wanted a new world order. So that's what the whole thing was about. And then a couple years later, he ended up getting thousands of members. And all you needed to do was be influential, have a ton of money, and there was one more requirement. But this group was actually outlawed by the government. This wasn't even in the United States. It was in another country. So they said, we're going to get rid of all of them. But the whole conspiracy today is that they escaped from that, and they're still out there.
You know, it makes me think with the things that are going on now in gun control. I don't want to go on a political rant. I've been known to do that. But I will say this. The Second Amendment is just like any other amendment. It's a right that we have. It's a right that we've been given by God. And the thing that irritates me is that, people don't want to give up their guns. It's not just because people love guns. A gun sitting here is just like a phone or anything else. It's something you use. But the reason they're afraid to give it up is because they're afraid what the consequences would be. And for people who say, well, geez, what would a 12-gauge do against a Tomahawk missile or a drone? Well, why don't you ask the Russians what it did during Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Or why don't you ask our own military what it did in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Pakistan?
Yeah.
People with guns and grenades can keep a big government like the United States in check.
Oh, yeah.
And so people are afraid, and that's why people fight so fervently for their guns.
And that's what the Second Amendment's for, is for a tyrannical government.
That's
if it does
exactly
go nuts, we have some form of protection. You look at other countries where they've taken all the weapons away, the citizens have no way to protect themselves. the government goes tyrannical, and there end up being a mass genocide of people.
Right.
And you look at history; it repeats itself time and time again.
Well, and I try not to make too many comparisons to Nazi Germany, because one thing that I see that kind of sickens me on social media is people say, "Well, Donald Trump, he's Adolf Hitler."
Oh.
Time out.
Yeah.
We do not have a politician in the history of America in the last 100 years that even gets close, even gets anywhere near the scope of Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
So when they make those comparisons, it's disrespectful to the people who suffered under that man and for the people who fought against him. My grandfather was one of them. He was part of the Battle of the Bulge. In fact, his unit was killed off in Normandy. He was part of the Normandy invasion.
Wow.
His entire unit was killed off. He ends up over in another unit who ends up at the Battle of the Bulge, one of the bloodiest battles in the history of World War II. But anyways, so when I see these comparisons, back in the 1930s, that's what Hitler did, is he took the guns away from citizens. And he villainized the people who he thought he could blame. And that's what's happening in our country right now. What these groups want to do is they want to separate us into groups. You're young people. You're black. You're white. You're Hispanic. They want us all separate because they know when we're separate, we can't control things.
Well, you can't. You can't work together.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Wow.
It all becomes about separation of all of us, and so they can get away with their mission. And their mission is global domination through currency and through religion, and that's what they're doing.
Wow. It's just crazy to think of all that. But you have a very good point there, and I definitely agree with you on that. Just nuts with the whole thing. We have something that we do. We didn't do it last week with Adrian because we had a ton of stuff to talk about. But we did it 2 episodes ago. It's called What the Fake. Mm-hmm. We bring up 3 news articles.
I was afraid you were going to do this.
Yeah. One of them is a fake article, and the other 2 are real. And it's kind of scary because all the articles are very ridiculous. But I'm going to read you the 3 articles, and you have to tell me which one you think is fake. So remember, 2 of them are real, 1 of them is fake. First article, squatters found living in basement of movie theater. So it says a secret back room was turned into an apartment by 2 men. 2 men were found living in a secret back room in the basement of a movie theater in New Hope, Pennsylvania. The discovery came after an employee spotted power cables running into a concrete wall in the basement. Pretty much 2 squatters decided they were just going to live in the basement of this movie theater and get away with it. So this is the first article. And they were stealing the candy and popcorn to...
Their mom's basement was used.
Apparently, yeah. Here's the next one. Cops say suspect has refused to poop for 3 weeks. This one's about a guy who had drugs in his system that the police thought, but he would not poop at all. Actually, not in his system. They thought he had drugs shoved up in that area.
Yeah, right.
And he was refusing to poop for 23 days. And they were posting on Twitter. This police department was posting saying stuff like, the guy will not poop still. Like, big update.
They're trying to make it poop, but he won't poop.
He's still holding it.
Listen, I totally get not the drug part, but like one time when I was a kid, my family took a trip to Arizona. It took us like 4 days. I didn't poop for the whole time. I mean, because, it's strange bathrooms. I did not mean to go here, but and you can laugh all you want. Strange bathrooms. And it's, it's one of those things. So, I mean, I don't get the drug thing, but I could see maybe the reluctance. People have that sometimes to wanting to poop, so maybe.
Well, he can't poop because he's going to jail, or he's going to stay in prison if he poops. Yeah. So, next article, final one. Teacher set to lose his job over whole grain pancakes. So this teacher brought a skillet to class or whatever, a little waffle or pancake thing, and before a test, he decided to put whole grain pancakes for the kids, and he ended up losing his job because all the pancakes were whole grain. We have the 2 guys living in the basement of the movie theater. We have the criminal refusing to poop because he apparently has drugs up there. Right. And we have the teacher who got fired for serving whole grain pancakes to the kids. Which one's fake, John?
Well, the other ones are, these are all scenarios that I could envision because I whole grain everything is terrible. And we already talked about the poop thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the pancakes.
The pancakes are fake?
Yeah.
Can I make a guess, Ethan? Because I don't know either.
You don't know either? What do you think?
I don't know. I think it's the squatters.
You think it's the squatters are fake?
I think it's the guy that's pooping.
Wow, we got one of each. None of you guys know. I didn't tell Tyler or Colin.
No,
I've never heard these.
The one that is fake is the squatters living in the basement of the movie theater.
Do you know how I knew?
How did you know?
The text.
Huh?
The text.
What about it?
It's different. A lot different.
It's just smaller.
Well,
I know. I can
that's
just
cheating.
tell.
That is cheating. Wow.
How is it cheating?
You're a squatter.
Well, because I'm old. I don't have my glasses. There's all kinds of advantages.
No, it's the same font. It was just smaller. I think that's what Colin was saying. But all 3 articles are the same. It's just, this one is fake. The squatters found in the basement of the movie theater. Not real. But the whole grain teacher getting the whole grain pancakes, the teacher got fired for that.
Well, I'm the first person to get this wrong here. So I was also.
Well, hey, we've only done it twice.
I was at the first game that the Twins ever lost at Target Field.
Really?
The Boston Red Sox.
Was that the first game they played there?
No, it was the second game. Second game? Second game.
Jeez.
And I was at the first game that the Vikings ever lost at US Bank Stadium.
Oh, my gosh.
So was that the first game?
It wasn't the first game.
Jeez, you got a big anti-Minnesota.
I love
here.
Minnesota, but come on.
Well, I love the Utah Jazz, but you don't see me talking about it. Or Westbrook, most overrated player in the NBA.
Oh, he's got the Oklahoma City jersey on. So is that a Westbrook jersey?
No, Melo.
Oh,
best player in the NBA.
8 seed or whatever. Not that I follow the NBA, but
why don't you go back to the file, Dalt? Pull up another one of these.
4 seed.
Or go to the articles. My bad.
Jazz are the 5th.
The articles, Dalt. Like on the internet. My bad. We're still talking about the Illuminati. We had to take a break to go over this.
Speaking about Illuminati.
Yeah, Thailand's got the information.
All right. So how they make their money from a website, I can't remember what it was, but they do drug. All right, listen. They do drug running.
What website?
Can't remember. I'll check after this.
Okay.
And I'll let you know.
I just want to make sure it's a good source.
They do drug running.
Is that a new form of cross country?
Get out of town. All right.
You need one of those drums. Yeah. Little rim shot. Yeah.
Can we get the what else, Tom?
All right. So the Illuminati makes money through drug running, pornography, children, gun running, buying access codes for the military computers, hiring and selling assassinations, mercenaries and military trainers, and banking.
Well, definitely banking.
Well, I think, too, if you wouldn't have said what that was, you could say, was that one of the candidates that ran for president? That's how bad it seemed this last election. Yeah. So I wasn't sure where Illuminati.
I'm confused, though, by this whole thing. Pornography, drug running.
Gun running?
I thought the Illuminati just had control of all the banks, so they don't need to be doing any of that stuff. This sounds like a drug cartel to me.
Well, and I think illicit behavior, any of that stuff, I think some of it is tied to government. You see some of those governments that almost sanction sex trafficking.
Oh, really?
Some of them in the Middle East.
Huh.
Some of them sanction that.
Wow.
They won't officially do it, but that is, you hear that kind of stuff because women's rights and those kind of things are not really allowed in those countries. They got to cover their faces when they're out in public, and some of them can't vote.
Wow.
And that's why it's always interesting our relationship with Saudi Arabia, considering we talk about how bad China's civil rights are. I mean, Saudi Arabia is cutting your hand off for stealing a piece of candy. They're not letting women vote. They're not letting women hold the positions of power.
Wow.
And who's tied in with the Saudis? The Bushes. George H.W. Bush was big friends with the Saudi president or the Saudi kings. Wow. So, anyways, to me, it's not necessarily surprising because I think they corner the market in all the illicit behavior.
Really,
they're gonna wherever there's money to be made. There's people in charge.
Wow. Well, did you have anything else, Tom? You were talking about something about
the website was conspiracy wikia.com.
Wikia, it's a Wikia. Don't you have that on here? He's on it right now, I think, actually. It's a fandom powered by Wikia. This is a whole thing about the Illuminati here. The Illuminati began as a secret society. Founded in, there it is, 1778 by Adam Weishaupt. So that the same year, the All-Seeing Eye. Interesting. What do you think about the whole thing, John, with the money and the All-Seeing Eye and the pyramid?
That's what I was just going to ask you about.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What do you think about all that?
At one point I saw some descriptions as to why that is the way it is. A lot of it comes back to the influence of the Egyptians again in religion.
Yeah.
A lot of our beliefs are based off what the Egyptians believed.
Huh.
And a lot of it is trickled through.
Really?
It's what they call zeitgeist. It's a period of time. That period of time was very popular. I mean, how many movies do you see that have something about Egypt in there?
Oh, yeah.
So much of our history is derived from that.
That's crazy.
Speaking of the pyramids, another example would be the Mayan pyramids down in Chichen Itza. I don't know if you ever heard of those. It's the one you pull up Chichen Itza. There's one called El Castillo, and it's a pyramid that was built by the Mayans.
Huh.
Now the nearest quarry is like 20 miles away, where they could get limestone, and this is back in 700-800, the year 700-800.
Wow.
And they were somehow before the wheel able to drag all this limestone and create these pyramids.
Huh.
Now this is before the invention of the modern calendar.
Yeah.
They built this huge pyramid, and it was unearthed, I think, in 1936. They dug it up because it was underground. They found it.
Really?
And if you type in El Castillo, it'll pull up a picture But the Mayans built this, and when the Spanish discovered it, you can see it right there as a good picture.
Oh, I've seen that before.
Yep. And so most people, when I say it, they think they don't think Chichen Itza, but that's El Castillo. I climbed that.
Wow.
That
They
climb
dug that
is
up.
almost near. Yeah, they climbed, like in 1936 they dug it up.
Wow.
Mexican and American archaeologists. And the interesting thing, because they didn't have the calendar, and this is another one of those where it ties into mythology, is each side you can see those stairs.
Mhm.
There's 91 stairs on each side.
Really?
91 times 4 is 364. There's a god on the top temple where you walk one more step to see their god. 365.
Wow.
Representative of every day of the year. Twice during the year, in the autumn equinox and in the spring, the light hits that at a certain angle, and it actually gives the image of a snake, of a
Really?
serpent on the ground.
Wow.
And that's how they knew when to plant their crops.
That's nuts.
Yeah, and then when to harvest.
That's crazy.
But they didn't have the modern calendar. That was an invention that hadn't come to them yet.
Yeah.
But they built this, and that was all drug in, and that's just one of the structures that's on that site at Chichen Itza.
Wow.
But it's an ancient city that they don't know how it was built.
That's just crazy.
So,
When did you go here? This is
I went there in 2002, 2003.
2002. Wow.
Yeah.
What are you looking at, the Mayan calendar, Dalt, or what is this? Yeah.
So, like I said, you climb that thing. They actually put ropes down it because climbing it is one thing. Going down it, you're almost going straight down.
Really?
And so it's going up is one thing but going down it, you're basically sliding down stone.
Huh.
And then you can climb the inside. It's not quite as tall, but when you climb the inside of that, then what happens is the inside, because it's warm outside and cold inside, the steps are slippery. So you basically just fall down the steps on the inside.
Dang.
And there's actually a god there where one of their gods is laying on a bench. It's a stone bench, and they're laying like this. And they would set people on there that won the contest. They had to throw a stone through a circle hoop. And if they won, they would lay down there and they would hold these people down. And the myth is they would reach their hands through their heart, grab their heart, break their ribs, grab their heart, and pull it out.
What is this,
while they're
Indiana
still alive.
Jones?
Yeah, Indiana Jones.
But you can see him throwing the ball through the hoop. And whoever would win that,
I've seen that before.
That
yeah.
was their sacrifices. They would go and rip their hearts right out of their chest. And those stone things are still there where you can see the circles.
Oh, really?
And then they have a pit where the loser would end up being cast into this big,
my
deep
gosh.
pit.
So you think it's all that, like we were talking about the eye, you think it's all just related to Egyptian like mythology, stuff like that?
I do. And the interesting, not to get too far off the topic, but the interesting thing is as you travel around the world, these similar types of pyramids and those kind of things keep popping up.
Uh-huh.
And so there was no contact, but yet they're all...
Interesting.
And that's tied into a little bit, you talked about like UFOs or whatever.
Yeah.
The influence. They think this maybe was built by UFOs because there's no way those people should have been able to haul that rock that far.
Wow.
So...
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, we have to give away something here. We did a thing on Facebook, Twitter, where we asked people to retweet and share. We have a winner of a T-shirt right here, so let's see who won. Got an envelope in an envelope. You don't want anyone getting in here early. Let's see who won. Kobe Lovell. If you're watching, if you're listening, you won a free T-shirt, so you can contact me and pick that up. Congratulations to Kobe.
Nice.
Big fan of the podcast there. I know him and his dad.
Always watch.
Check in and
awesome. Well,
yeah.
He's going to get a free T-shirt out of the deal, and we will be doing the same thing this week. So if you share/retweet this, we will enter your name into a drawing next week. We will announce the winner, and I'm not sure who will be on here next week, but have to figure something out. But I know that we will definitely have to get John back on because we're running out of time here.
John knows a little bit about everything.
I was going to say, we need to get John on because he has a little bit, like you said, a little bit about everything that we talked about. So that's awesome to get someone on here that definitely knows all this kind of stuff. Especially, seems like you know a lot about the Egyptian mythology behind like American culture and everything, which I don't know much about that. So
I just really love history. You know, there's a lot of history around here, especially presidential history. But I love it. I'd be glad to come here and help kind of fill in the spaces if you guys wanted. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad to help.
Maybe come on a ghost adventure with Adrian Lee.
Listen, honestly, I listened to that thing twice because I'm like, man, this guy's cool.
Awesome.
He's so cool. I mean, the stuff we were talking about, and I do believe some of that stuff where, you know, that, because like he said, where would it all go?
Yeah.
Where would it all, it's there. I think it's there. So.
It's interesting.
It's a very interesting topic.
Well, we'll definitely get John back on for sure because there's a ton of stuff we can talk about. And we didn't even, for this, you can scratch the surface for what we talked about tonight. There's so much in depth if you go into each and every little thing. But I want to thank everybody for watching tonight. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, whatever you're watching or listening on. We will be back next week. Thanks again, John, for coming on. It's been awesome having you.
No problem.
And we for sure get you back on here.
Yeah.
To everyone watching, thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Ethan Clare Podcast Show. We'll see you next week.